Mr. Pietura, at time of sentencing in this case, the court must look at the gravity of the offense that was committed. I have to look at your character and rehabilitative needs, as well as protection of the community, deterrence, and punishment. I must say, Mr. Pietura, that I've been a lawyer for a very long time and a judge now for a fair amount of time, and I don't recall a case that is as monstrous as this one. What happened on October 25th of 2023 that deprived Prince McCree, say his name, Prince McCree, of his life, of his future, of his love and his bond with his family members is unforgivable. The brutal, heinous beating of this 5-year-old child, an innocent, should never have taken place. All he wanted to do was be your friend. All he wanted to do was play Spider-Man, to be a superhero, to read books, to do the things that 5-year-olds do, play on the playground. According to everyone that's testified today, he looked up to you as his role model, like a big brother. And in his home, in his safe zone, what did you do? But Prince came to the basement, and you and Eric took his life. The pre-sentence report does reflect that the defendant does minimize his involvement in all of this, and I think that may be just simply a way to cope. I don't know. I did have the opportunity, and the record should reflect, and both lawyers know this, to actually review the statements that Mr. Pietura gave. I saw the recordings, and in particular, in the second statement, he did actually tell what he had done. Mr. Pietura, you played a significant role in depriving this child of his life. In the second interview in particular, you involved yourself and you told police about what you did, how you saw Eric choking this child to the point of unconsciousness. But instead of stopping Eric, instead of saying, no, this is not the way that we treat our friends, this is not the way that we treat a 5-year-old, a child, you didn't do that. You got involved with this homicide. When the child lost consciousness, you worked with Eric in order to wrap up and bind the child's body and limbs. You put duct tape on this child. He's 5 years old. You punched the child in the head and you stuffed his mouth full of a rag so he couldn't breathe. You took the life from him and you grabbed a 30-pound barbell and dropped it on his head when he whimpered. He was gagged, he was taped, and he was placed into the indignity of a garbage bag. As you and Eric are carrying this child up the stairs, he whimpers again, and then you guys grab a golf club where your DNA is on that golf club, and you strike this child repeatedly in the head, in the abdomen, and in the genitalia. And when the child whimpered as you all took him outside, you dropped a bird bath pedestal, a cement pedestal on this child's head, and then discarded his body as if he were a piece of trash. I saw the pictures of the injuries to Prince, and it pains me to think of how that little boy suffered. It pains me to think of the fact that he didn't die right away. If this had to happen to him, that he suffered, he was tortured. It's inexplicable that he had all of these multiple blunt force injuries inflicted upon him and that he died as well of asphyxiation. The only word that I know is inexcusable. The depravity of Prince's death weighs heavy on my mind. Mr. Pietura, you, along with your co-actor, committed a series of brutal assaults on this young boy, acts that showed complete and utter disregard for human dignity and for life. Hitting one with a golf club, choking them, dropping a barbell on his head, binding him with his limbs with duct tape, stuffing a rag in his mouth as the child whimpered, dropping a bird bath on his head to silence him. Those acts are sheer evil. Your behavior was perverse. It lacked any sense of moral decency. The loss of this little boy is inexplicable, and it happened at your hands. Looking at you, Mr. Pietura, I read with interest the pre-sentence because I tried to think to myself, how on earth can someone get to the point of doing this, something so heinous to a 5-year-old child? You are now 27 years old. You've had the privilege of a high school education. Well, you've had some mental health issues and perhaps are on the autism spectrum. And you didn't have the best of childhood, but you were provided for. Your mother took care of you. You had no juvenile or criminal convictions prior to this, albeit you did have some arrest. I don't know morally why you just didn't stop and say, hey, you know what? Despite the bad things that I've been through in my life, why am I allowing bad things to happen to Prince, another child? To your credit, you did enter a guilty plea in this case, and you saved the family having to sit and listen to this in the context of a jury trial, and that would have been brutal. But then when it came to talking to the pre-sentence writer, you backed away from your involvement in this case. And you even laid blame at the feet of the parents of the child, which is totally unfair. The family members in the victim impact statements that I heard here in court today show that this young boy was loved. He was cheerful, he was delightful. And I read also some other victim impact statements that were in the court file, and in a couple of those it said, you know, parents attempt in every possible way to keep their babies safe from any harm, danger, or strangers. You weren't a stranger to Prince. You were his comrade, his little guy, his person that he wanted to be with, to play video games with. He didn't deserve to suffer like this, Mr. Pietura. It's caused so much pain and so much heartache. I can see it in the faces of all that are here today. And I just cringe at the thought that this poor baby was found in a dumpster. He was brutally murdered by you, and then you had the chutzpah, the audacity to walk around with the family of Prince and pretend that you were searching for his body, all the time knowing where he was, all the time knowing what you did. I don't know. This kind of crime tears apart not only the family of Prince McCree and the individuals who loved him, it hurts their hearts, but it tears apart our community. There has to be some general deterrence in this particular case, a message to the community that children, including Prince McCree, are the future of this world. You know, Prince might have become a leader in our community tomorrow. He could have been a doctor. He might have been a fireman. He might have been an engineer. He could have been anything that he wanted to be if he set his mind to it. But because of your actions, Mr. Pietura, we will never know or see Prince realize his full potential in life. But I want to say to the family that I think there's an important legacy about all of this. I read with interest in the newspaper that at 5 years old, that because of Prince's death, that there are now purple alerts to look for children, and that filled in the gaps with amber alerts. And my recollection about Prince from the things that I read is that, you know, he liked Spider-Man. Spider-Man had extraordinary powers that were to be used for good. And through this law and the things that happen, Prince has done something good for somebody else. And that will be part of his legacy. Not only will his family members hold him close in their hearts, but he will be remembered for the bipartisan bill signed into law by Governor Evers, allowing emergency alerts for missing children who do not meet the criteria for Amber Alerts. So I think there is a legacy, but Mr. Pietura, I think you said it as well as anybody, to be frank with you. There cannot be forgiveness in this particular case. The community has to be protected from you and from your actions. Mr. Pietura, it is the sentence of this court under the totality of the circumstances to punish you that you spend the rest of your life on count 1, first-degree intentional homicide, in prison. You will not be eligible for release on extended supervision. You knew that, and I actually give you credit for recognizing that. If there's any peace at all to be given to the family, at least, Mr. Pietura, in a dignified way, you recognize the gravity of what you did. Sir, the time that you're confined in prison can be extended if you violate any prison regulation or if you refuse or neglect to perform any required or assigned duties. If your time in prison is extended under this bad time provision, you could be required to serve up to the total length of your sentence in prison. You will be serving the total of your sentence in prison. The penalties that can be imposed by the Department of Corrections are 10 days for the first offense, 20 days for the second offense, and 40 days for the third and each subsequent offense. In addition, if you are placed in adjustment, program, or controlled segregation status, your term of confinement can be extended by a number of days equal to 50% of the number of days that you spend in adjustment, program, or controlled segregation status. Finally, if while you're in prison, you file a lawsuit which the court finds to be filed for a malicious purpose or solely to harass the party against whom it is filed, or if you testify falsely or otherwise knowingly offer false evidence or provide false information to the court in that lawsuit, the court can order that your term of confinement be extended up to the total length of your sentence. You will not be eligible for extended supervision where there are conditions that will be set, and this written explanation of determinate life sentence sets forth the petition rights for release on extended supervision, but you are not eligible. Therefore, I will not read those to you. Mr. Pietura, I also have to tell you that while you're in the care, custody, and control of the prison system, it is my hope that you will participate in the following programming and or assessments. I hope that you have a mental health evaluation to find out why on earth that you did this. You should follow up with any treatment and care that is recommended for you, including taking prescribed medications. You must also undergo an alcohol or drug assessment and comply with all recommended treatment and care, and attend other treatment and counseling programs as determined appropriate for you. Further, you should undergo and complete a course in Thinking for a Change. How to change your mindset so that you can comport your behavior with the standards that are expected of people who are actually in our society. You are to have absolutely, positively no contact with the parents or family members That is anyone from Prince McCree's family. No contact means in person, no contact means by letter, no contact means over the telephone, by internet, by text, tweet, or any way, shape, or form. No contact. That is the only way that these folks will be able to move forward with their lives and have some peace. Further, sir, you are to have no contact with firearms. I will order DOC to collect any monetary amounts ordered today, which include giving a sample of your DNA to the state crime lab and paying the DNA surcharge, as well as paying all mandatory court costs. Was there any restitution requested?
I don't believe so.
Was there restitution requested from the advocate?
No.
Restitution shall be set at 0. So DOC shall collect any monetary amounts ordered today for those court costs as provided in section 973.05 sub 4 sub B and 973.20 while you are in their care, custody, and control from your accounts. Any monetary amounts that remain unpaid when the sentence is completed, which will be a life sentence, would be reduced to a civil judgment against the defendant for unpaid balances, and then collection could proceed under section 71.935 of the statutes, as well as through other civil collection means. Mr. Pietura, this is a life sentence. Therefore, while I recognize that you have 275 days of pretrial incarceration credit, that does not get awarded to you. It is just simply notated. Sir, you have been convicted of a felony offense. Therefore, you may never possess a firearm at any time in the future. Section 941.29 of the Wisconsin statutes makes it another felony for anyone who has been convicted of a felony to ever possess a firearm, carrying with it its own 10-year period of imprisonment or $25,000 fine or both. Sir, do you understand you may never possess a firearm?
Yes.
In addition, due to the felony conviction, you are prohibited forever from possessing body armor, ammunition, and explosives. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And finally, sir, you are not allowed to vote until your voting rights have been restored by the Department of Corrections if you are ever discharged from this sentence. Do you understand that?
Yes.
This case leaves me so disturbed, and it leaves me so saddened because the potential for one life is extinguished and the other life is going away for the rest of his. We as a community need to hug our children. We need to take our kids and tell them that they are good and give them examples so that they can live a good life and know how to treat others with dignity, respect, and have that moral compass that hopefully will ensure, given this sentence, Mr. Pietura, that other people will learn that this can never repeat itself again. That's the message that I want sent to the community, that Prince McCree's life was valued, and that unfortunately you've taken that away from not only his family but our community. And in spite of that, though, Mr. Pietura, you're going to live the rest of your days out in the Wisconsin state prison system.